Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the Morning Five. We're going to be in Psalm 138 this morning. Psalm 138. Glad you could join us today, David.
Psalm 138. I will give you thanks with all my heart. I will sing praises to you before the gods. I will bow down toward your holy temple and give thanks to your name for your loving kindness and your truth. For you have magnified your word according to all your name. On the day I called, you answered me. You made me bold with strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth will give thanks to you, O Lord. When they have heard the words of your mouth, they will sing of the ways of the Lord, for great is the glory of the Lord. For though the Lord is exalted, yet he regards the lowly, but the haughty he knows from afar. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, you will revive me. You will stretch forth your hand against the wrath of my enemies, and your right hand will save me. The Lord will accomplish what concerns me. Your loving kindness, O Lord, is everlasting. Do not forsake the work of your hands. Mark, what do you see?
There's so much here in this psalm. One of the beautiful things about the Psalms is so many of them revolve solely around worship. And I think one of the things I've gained from this study of the Psalms is more of an appreciation for that. For many of us, worship is something we take for granted. It's something we do. We do it every Sunday. As far as our collective worship, maybe we don't think about it as much every day as we should. But the psalmist really reminds us that worship is a beautiful thing, and it's something that ought to be deeply taken to heart for the one who is his. And like so many of the other psalms, this psalm runs through how we worship and why we worship. It begins by making worship personal. I will give thanks to you with all of my heart. I will sing praises to you. I will sing your praises before. Your translation said the gods. Mine says the heavenly beings. There, I think it gives the priority on God. It could be that the spiritual beings see us worshiping God, but even then, God gets the priority above every other being. And in a world where there were false gods all around, it's important for God's people to be seen as those who are going to give God the priority before everything else. And he talks about how he gives praise to God. And then he moves into all the kings of the earth give praise to God. It's not just something that I do. Everyone ought to see how wonderful God is. And that brings us to the last thing, and that is why we worship God. Because verses 5 and 6, God's ways are great. He is to be exalted. And then he notices us. He protects us. Is there anything new and revolutionary in this psalm? Not really. But is it good for me to remind myself that I need to sing praise and put a priority on God every day, and I ought to think about him and how wonderful he is? And maybe in some small way, from my efforts to worship God, maybe that will impact other people, and other people will begin to worship him as well.
Amen. One of the verses that just stand out to me is verse 6. This contrast between how high and exalted God is, and yet he is mindful of us. It's very reminiscent of Psalm 8 and just David's thoughts. What is man before you, O Lord? And why do you regard us? But this great picture of how mighty God is, but yet he is humble and loves us enough to bend down and rescue us. And I think it ties directly into your point. That's why we worship, because he first loved us.
Right, and another interesting contrast at the end of verse 6, he knows the haughty from a distance. And yet in verse 7, if I walk into the thick of danger, you will preserve my life from the anger of my enemies. You will extend your right hand, your right hand will save me. There's the impression that with those who are humble, God is with them. He is next to them. Those who are haughty, he is distant from them.
Amen.
A lot of good stuff there.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today. If you got thoughts on the psalm, well, we'd love to hear from you. If you got questions, let us know that as well. Hope you will join us again as we look at Psalm 139. I hope you have a great day.